Well, in the last video we talked about Tapu and Noah, and there's another word in the Maori called a mana, and how does mana differ from tapu or sacred? Sacred or Noah, ordinary, a man can move from that just by changing his hat. If a man takes his hat off, then what happens is he's out of position, okay? And so it's not easy for me to do this without my hat on. In fact, it's impossible. I'll put it back on, all right? Because a man's hat shows the position he occupies within the natural order of poets, bards and druids. And also within other guilds of nature. If he's an architect, he also wears the hat of the master architect, if he's a master architect. And a man who doesn't have a hat, doesn't wear a hat, he's a man who has no position in nature. He's part of the problem. If you have a hat, if God gives you a hat, then you have a position as part of the mission of God to correct the error in the world. That's our function, is to correct the error in the world. If we have no hat, we're just simply part of that error needing correction. Now, the lowest form of hat that a man can wear is the hat of the apprentice. And the hat of the apprentice means he's not yet become a master, he's learning from another master. And so that MAGA hat that Donald Trump wears is the cap of the boy, of the apprentice boy. And he's always got that type of a hat on, with the peak forward here. And so it shows he has a position. He's not very well advanced on that position. And so he has less mana, if you like, than the master who was teaching him. And a human being is at the higher level of the positions, at the top of the great chain of being, which goes from the very demonic sea creatures right up to man standing on the top of the mountain. Yeah? God, at the highest step, is God, because there's no God without man. Man is made in the image of God, and everything we know about God manifests through man. Yeah, our whole idea of God comes from man. A man is a great spirit in the universe, and that's what God-man, that's what, when man becomes God-man, then that great spirit is acting within reality, in the moment of the universe. And there are various steps, grades if you like, and each grade carries a higher level of mana. And mana is what gives a person respect. It's necessary for other people to respect a person based on their mana. And if you disrespect somebody with a high level of mana, you can end up in terrible trouble. It's not allowed to do that. So you'll see that of all the politicians, if you like, talking on the world stage, there's only one who wears a proper hat, the hat of the lawmaker, and that's George Galloway. He wears that when he's speaking, and he speaks very strongly. If I put my lawmaker hat on, I'll get too strong like George does. Yeah. Now George has probably got one of these hats too, that he wears from time to time. Because George has done everything that I've done. He's on that great pathway. He's got all the way to the top. He's got a beautiful lady. Yeah. You've got land, house, car, everything, carriage. Because that's what a man needs who gets to that level, a level of mastery on the pathway. There are even remnants of this in our ordinary day-to-day world. For example, at Oxford, if you're a student at Oxford University, if you're not a master of some art, you're only allowed to have a moped. You can't have a proper motorcycle, you can't have a sports car, anything like that. You have to have a moped, that's all you're allowed to have. So it's a takeover from ancient times here. And people who are not masters of some art, with the hat and everything, are not allowed to marry. And if they marry, they end up with prostitutes. Because the ladies are not allowed to marry them. And the only way they're going to get this is to get some fallen lady to pay that lady with some perks to persuade her to be part of his life. It's only the masters who are allowed to have wives. In some places, the higher you got at this thing, the more wives you got. It was a funny thing. Yet, as well as being monotheistic, the natural order, religious natural order, is I cannot say it. I cannot say it. I was going to say coupleship. It may be more than coupleship. It may more than one wife, may be allowed. We don't know until we find ourselves part of natural order and in that situation. Yeah? So we wait and see. But monogamy is what I have found to be the most important aspect of coupleship. Okay, now to get back to hats and mana. If a man has if a man has no hat, he has no mana. He hasn't got much mana, put it that way. And so he's got no position in nature. If he's got a hat with a peak on it, he's part of the good aspect of nature, working together with nature, but under the direction of some other master. If a man has a hat, one of those hats, the wrong way round, okay, with a thing across here, then he's a criminal. He's part of the criminal classes. Okay. And he's not an apprentice to anybody. He's an apprentice to the devil, doing the devil's work. And any hat that's back to front means that. Some people put on a gentleman's cap, it's got a small peak and the wrong way round. That's what it says. Not a gentleman. He's a cad. The opposite of the gentleman is a cad. A bounder. And we come to the highlands. Now, the hat of the artist and the poet is this kind of hat. And they can be made out of different substances, yeah. I've had many of these hats going up in degrees as I've risen up through the ranks, okay. And they also have different diameters. Martin Luther had a bigger one with a thing at the back. I've had one of those too. You'll see some of my other hats of this on my boating channel. When I get a new hat, they blow off in the water and lose them. And I have to get a new hat. And lo and behold, it's always different. Okay. And of recent years, I've been wearing leather hats like this. I had a brown one when I did the big bicycle trip on the brown one. It was a little bit narrow, a bit tighter, just a little bit. And I've had a number of cowboy hats. Now, the cowboy hat is a lawmaker, yeah, the lawmaker. What do they call them in the Wild West? The lawman, the lawman's hat. I'll get it. Okay. Now this is a George Galloway hat, but you'll notice it's a bit different to George Galloway's hat. It's a bit more, I used to have hats like George Galloway. It's a bit of a narrow, this one is a different kind of a thing. And so there are various degrees of lawmaking. I have to take it off. I don't want to talk in the lawmaker's hat. And so mana. Now, you can lose your mana also if you make mistakes, yeah? Serious mistakes can take your mana away. Like for example, if somebody says something out of turn, and you don't correct them, you know they're wrong, but you just sit there, can't be bothered. No, you just say, blah, 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 blah. Like Julius Malema. Malema, M-A-L-E-M-A. Male male mother. Powerful, the male aspect was the mother of the people. Julius Malema is a great revolutionary messiah of the black South Africans, yeah? The Bantu peoples who have been enslaved forever by the, it's not here, American Israeli alliance, if you like. And God put his picture in the White House, the video of him in the White House recently. It was the greatest publicity he could ever have got. I wouldn't have even known about him if Donald Trump hadn't played that video. Yeah. And he is a man of very, very great mana, because he's risen up right through the ranks to the level of the warrior messiah. So he's exactly like Takuti was in the Maori. He has very, very high levels of mana. And when he speaks, you can see it. You can see it's unlikely that you'll tackle this man, because you're just going to get it. And I watched an interviewer tackle him, and he did an absolute perfect job of putting the man in his place. He's a very great man, Julius Caesar, Julius Malema, the male mother. And he's wearing red, and all his people are wearing red because they're dangerous, man. They've got mana. And unfortunately, I saw a very bad sign a few days ago that a group of his warriors were killed in a bus crash. The bus crashed and there were 12 people killed in the bus crash. It was a group of his people, I don't know how many of his people were killed. And the name of the place it happened at was very important. It was Vryheid. The crash was at Vryheid. And Vryheid means freedom. And it means that a great many of his followers are going to die for fighting for their freedom. Freedom. Freedom was never won without a fight. And always God has to raise up a warrior messiah type to do this job. And then normally he follows it with a peace type messiah to bring it to its conclusion. Okay, so you had Steve Biko at the time of Nelson Mandela. He was murdered by the South African police, and Nelson Mandela followed Steve Biko. That's just an example. And you might find this pattern wherever you look. I'll stop now. Now watching that back, it occurred to me that it's just as well could be the other way around. In fact, it is the other way around as well, also the other way around. Because after the peaceful Messiah comes the warrior Messiah, and that's what's happened. Nelson Mandela followed by Julius Malema. And the same thing happened with Gandhi. Gandhi was the peaceful Messiah. Okay, he said, no fighting, just whatever. And in the end, a warrior Messiah, God raised up a warrior Messiah. And Gandhi was arguing with him. And yet Gandhi got taken out and the warrior Messiah completed Gandhi's work. So you can see the patterns there in the universe. And the Indian people won their freedom, and they have gone from strength to strength ever since that time. And they even own most of England. The productive aspects of it anyway. Norton motorcycles, and probably the cars as well, all the cars and the motorcycles, all the engineering gone to India, Royal Enfield. Okay, now to get back to Julius' problem. They said they were free in South Africa now, but they didn't get their land. Okay, the same people have the land and the business and everything that they always had. Yeah, they just changed the wheels on the car. Yeah, they put mag wheels on. That's all they did. And they're still living in their shanty towns with no space, no water, no nothing. And so it's just a terrible, terrible shame on the world, right? And I watch these white South Africans. I used to live there. I used to be a white South African. I used to live there. And I watch them talking about, oh, how terrible these blacks are, and, you know, Donald Trump's going to save them and all that kind of thing. And it's terrible, really. They're all traitors. They're all traitors to South Africa, yeah? They're not behind the people of South Africa at all. They're like, you know, we've got it all and we're going to keep it all, yeah? And that's the end of it, right? And so, how does one solve this problem? Well, I thought one way of solving it is that you force them to take apprentices, okay, onto their land, and you force them to take, all the blacks have to be integrated in with the white population. And they have to move in, if they've got big farmland there, then they have to move in and build their own houses, build their houses on the farmland of the farms, and with enough land to grow their, to do their farming. So, and the white masters have to train them as apprentice farmers, okay? And in this process they can take shared ownership of that land. So instead of it being, this is my farm, the crook, this is the crook farm, okay, the crooked farm, right? I own it all. Say, okay, this is the cooperative, all right? We'll call it a cooperative, and we'll issue shares in the cooperative, okay? And the owner gets one share, and the 25 or 300 blacks get 300 shares or whatever, coming into this big farm area, right? So they all have an equal share in the farm now, and then all together they build houses for everybody, make sure that everybody's got a house, and they start to integrate, okay? Integration, yeah? And that becomes their world view. They have a new world view that joins them all together, okay? Cooperation, right? So that's the end of the war, yeah? And nobody can sell the farm or sell the shares, yeah? If somebody wants to go live somewhere else, they've got to give their shares, somebody else comes over and takes their house or whatever, and their land, right? Okay, it's a kind of a model, yeah? You can't expect the blacks to buy the land because the prices are just completely, totally overinflated. They're not what it's worth. Not to the blacks. To the blacks it should be free because they are free. And what happens in nature is when God frees a man, when the man passes all the tests that God gives him, and he creates his masterworks in his guild, whether it be the guild of farming or the guild of architecture or the guild of poets, bards and druids, the warrior guild of poets, bards and druids, which is what the Malema people are part of. When they do their job and win their freedom, like Nelson Mandela did, they're supposed to, all those people who fought a good fight as warriors under Nelson Mandela, they're supposed to get a number of things. They're supposed to get their lady. They're allowed to marry and they're given a wife, and the women run to them, welcome. That's why warriors always, the ladies love them. They love them. They'll compete over them. Marry me. I'm here. Where's my divine man? Yeah. Okay, that's the first thing. Then they've got to have land. They've got to have land. A peace, a place to call their own, because they are now masters of their own fate. In Germany we'll call it a Freiherr, free lord, Freiherr. In South Africa it's Freiheit, Freiheit, that's where the accident was. Yeah. And how you pronounce it in Afrikaans. In German it's Frei. I don't know how you pronounce it in German now, I'm completely confused. Freiherr. Don't assassinate me, please. Okay, so he becomes that, a free lord of the land. He has to have, when he's a couple, he has to have his carriage. He has to have a car. He has to have a car. Yeah. And later on he has to have his knight's steed, he has to have his motorcycle. And he has to have his couple boat, as you'll see. They're wealthy, have them. They have their couple boats. Yeah. You can start off with a rowing boat or a small little sailing boat. Yeah. And you grow up through the ranks to higher levels of cars and boats and motorcycles, land, so on. So these are the reward that God gives a man for service on the pathway of life, the great chain of being, when he rises through the great chain of being and gets given a position and a mission. His mission is his calling, what he's called to do by God, a calling. It's not a job of work. Everything he does is work. When he's sleeping at night, that's work. Yeah. He doesn't do anything except what he loves. That's how God rewards him. He says, you do what I say, you're going to love it. Even if it involves Victorian engineering. Now there are people who love doing stuff with metal objects. Engineers. And they used to create new carriages, new engines, new vehicles. In the olden days they used to do it new from scratch. Nowadays they take the old stuff and they recycle it. There's a guy on YouTube and he cuts, Milliard his name is, Milliard. Check him out, he's a master engineer. And he'll take a hacksaw to a motorcycle engine, cut it in pieces and take one cylinder from one engine and two cylinders from the other engine. He'll make 3-cylinder engine, or he'll make a 6-cylinder engine. He'll make an engine that goes this way. He'll add another bank with a hacksaw and they'll make a V version. Yeah? Milliard his name is. If you look at the Norton Nemesis, because he recently rebuilt the Norton Nemesis, you'll find his channel. Very interesting fellow. Very interesting. This is the way forward. This is what we're going. It's all about recycling, but it's not throwing away anything. It's making sure everything is used. And we're going to be creating interesting objects in the world. As soon as we stop being slaves to our American Israel, yeah, and they're all going to have to share what they've got. Now, I'll tell you the problem. The problem we've got in the whole system now is caused by Airbnb. Now, Airbnb is taking a cut of all of the wealth of Britain through their website, and they're raising the prices of housing. The house prices are going through the roof. Nobody can afford to buy a house or land anymore because of Airbnb, right? And Airbnb is supposed to be a way for poor people to find accommodation. No, it's not become that at all. It's a way for rich people to make loads of money out of their rental properties, okay, and put the price up of holiday accommodation, because now it's easy to find. Now you have a bigger market for it, okay? And so prices go up because of the demand increases for this stuff. So it pushes the price, and then there's people say, now we've got a way to make money from rental accommodation. Now we're going to buy all the remote villages in Cornwall, and the poor people are going to have nowhere to live anymore, okay? So that's what's happened. If you're living in Cornwall, you can't buy a house, can't afford to live there anymore. And some people are moving to Ireland, selling up and moving to Ireland just to be able to cope with having a place of their own to live in. But that's not the answer. The Irish don't want that. The Irish don't want all these people over there. You have to support. No good. And it's only because of the exchange rate between the euro and the pound and all that nonsense. Just all nonsense, yeah. And so how will everybody get there? How will all the masters who have been made in the natural order, who didn't go to Oxford and Cambridge, who just went to the University of Life, which is now on the internet. Now you can study under a master on YouTube. So what happens if you study under a master on YouTube, become a master motor mechanic and start to look after all these old motorcycles that the rich people are throwing away? What happens to you? How are you going to get your land and your house and so on? Well, you're not. And so there's a problem there because they're all too expensive. The price of houses in England is just absolutely ridiculous. It's just insane. Now you can force people, to not do it. You can say you have to live in your house. If you don't live in your house, you can't own a house. Now that makes a lot of sense, right? A lot of sense. And therefore, you have to get rid of your house in Cornwall. Now the prices of houses in Cornwall go down because the market's flooded with all these houses that were Airbnbs and now go back to the people. Yeah? Now that's a start, but that's not the... I see the South African solution of the cooperative and give it back to the people. I see that's a more viable solution. And Yanis Varoufakis, that's where I got the idea from. I thought he came up with a very good idea there about the people, the members of the organisation hold the shares to the organisation, not some other rich people who stole the organisation. No, who bought it, bought entire companies of men. No, the people who live on the place of work and own the place. They need to own the place of work. They need to own the means of production of their own hands in cooperative form. And a cooperative is a guild. It looks after its members. Yeah? If one of them falls sick, it looks after them. When they get old, you don't throw them out and say, no, you don't no longer work for the corporation anymore, bye-bye. No, it looks after them in their old age. This was the nature of the guilds, the ancient guilds, that were dissolved at the dissolution of the monasteries. That is the end of the good system that we had, the guilds. They were all taken over and their properties were stolen and they were given to the corporations of the cities. And that's how we got towns and city corporations, and they're all corrupt. They're all corrupt. You know they're all corrupt. They're lining their own pockets. And people running things shouldn't have any money. People in positions of power and authority should be the poor. They should have got to a point on the pathway and become members of the Guild of Poets, Bards and Druids. And the only way you can become a member of that is by giving everything you have away. To give it all away. That's the only entry point into that guild. That's good. I think we got somewhere in this video. I'm going to make a cup of coffee and I'll see if I've got anything else to say. Now you'll notice that video chopped itself off automatically into two pieces, that last video. When the video gets to a certain length, the camera automatically chops it and makes a second video, and you can see where it does it. There's a sort of interruption. And the interruption was perfect. It almost looked like I'd made two videos myself, but I hadn't. That was nature and the camera doing that. You see how perfect nature is if we work together with it. Yeah? People say, that's a miracle, that's a mystery, how can that be? No, it's not. The whole of nature is one. Science knows that. Starting to know it. There's no reality of separate particles, it's all just energy in the end of the day. Vortexes. All spinning around. We have to become virtuous. At the moment there's an interesting trial going on, the Diddy trial. It's a bit like the miniature Jeffrey Epstein trial that never was, because they put him out, didn't they? Because they didn't want that to go through a court of law. And Diddy's kind of like the fall guy, okay? And they'll say after Diddy's trial, they'll say, well, that's the end of the Epstein stuff. Now we've dealt with all that. Now Diddy is interesting because it's the first time that they're doing what they're doing to Diddy to an organisation, to a business, to a company. Normally, they say a criminal gang is a number of co-conspirers conspiring together. Yeah. Yet now, they're saying, well, if a business is owned by a criminal person, then the whole business becomes a criminal enterprise. If the person running the operation has no virtue, like say, for example, Jeff Bezos, you can see his partner is his mole. He's a don and she's a mole. She has physically enhanced her face and her body. She has bigger breasts than what she's supposed to have under nature. We know what those kind of people are, aren't they? They're prostitutes, yeah? And so, here's a man who has obviously got no virtue because he's wedded a prostitute and he's hired the whole of Venice to do it at the expense of the people of Venice. This might be his final act because the world's getting sick of this guy, yeah? Taking his mates up for trips into space just to have a look around, yeah? Polluting the atmosphere, destroying the ozone layer and all the rest of it, what he's doing. You know, Lex Luthor looks like him. Lex Luthor is the arch enemy of Superman, yeah? Superman. You can tell a person from their look. He has no hat. No hair either. It's even worse. Yeah. That's how they branded the Tibetan monks. And also the bad monks in Christianity. The top of the head shaved off. You show them. Show the world that they're corrupted. There's nothing natural about them. And so I say all organisations that can be bought and sold on the stock market are all corrupt, evil, criminal enterprises. That's what they are. Because all they are the new slave ships of the slavers. They put all the slaves inside the ship and they drive the ship, okay, from one country to another. And once when the ship wears out, they cast out all the people inside the ship to just on a barren shore with no land, no nothing. And they go make another ship somewhere else, in China or something. It's a criminal enterprise, just like Diddy. It's the same as Diddy. And all they're getting, it's the perks. It's all just perks. They don't make any profits. They don't make any profits. It's all about perks, yeah. And Diddy wasn't dealing with money. Nobody had to pay for anything. They pay for the sex, pay for their drugs. No, it's not prostitution because nobody's paying for it. It's not drug running because nobody's paying for it. It's all free. It's a criminal enterprise, yeah? And the people want to get into it. The only way to get in, to get a job, is to have sex with the boss, yeah? Who makes videos of you while you're doing it just so that you're frightened to death of telling anybody about it because they'll publish the video on YouTube. So what's the difference between that and the Epstein files, yeah? And all the people, they don't get paid money, they get paid in drugs and girls, yeah? Come to the party, yeah? Apparently even politicians were involved in this. The Clintons and Obama, these people, apparently. I wouldn't swear by it, just to let you know that there's some rumours about that, yeah? So it's worth looking into. Is it true, is it not true? But we know that the parties went on and the people benefited from them, and it was just like paying for prostitution, it was like paying for drugs, except it was all benefits of being part of the criminal organisation of Diddy. And Diddy's going down. I've got my hat on here. The hat of a lawmaker, okay? Diddy is going down, big time. And perhaps this will be the start of getting rid of all these corrupt organisations. Millions and millions of corrupt organisations. The entire stock exchange, fake stock exchange. Yeah. It's all got to go. It has held mankind in slavery ever since it appeared in the world. It has taken the place of the plantations and the slaves working on the plantations. They had better lives. They had a bit of land that they could farm. They could grow a few vegetables. Can't grow a vegetable here. Not possible. And so man has been cast out of nature, not by nature, he's been cast out by other men who've taken power and control away from him, taken his freedom away, and now is holding him in slavery and calling it democracy. Yeah? Well, it isn't democracy, because you can see, as George Galloway says, it's the two cheeks of the same arse. Our American Israel. That's what it is. And the church, yesterday I saw the church is promoting the idea of all the young people being conscripted into war. This is called the church. The church is a piece of shit on the arse that didn't yet get plucked off. And that church has got to go. That Church of England is the most despicable, horrific abomination of desolation that I ever saw. Thanks very much for watching.